Well then, welcome. We're going to have a paranormal roundtable for the lovely ladies of the paranormal. Are you Chris? Okay, I haven't met you yet. And these two are family. I love dearly. I'm Ellen. I am the founder of Spirits of New England from Boston. Jack Kenna is on the team, and the lovely Carly. And my daughter is traveling to Tennessee right now, so I let her not be here today just because she not use her. So we want to introduce you to everybody, and what we're going to do is have a very intimate conversation about just
what kind
of
lecture is
we're
this?
already warmed up. It's going to be about your first time. Not that first time.
Ellen, I charge for that stuff.
This is going to be your paranormal first time, your first experience, what got you into the paranormal, and why you love it.
Wow.
Okay. So this is Kat from Psych Paranormal in Vermont, the lovely Carly Hall from New York. Gina, I don't know where you're from.
I'm from Massachusetts.
Are you really?
originally.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So
All right.
you'll notice that in my accent when I start talking. But now I'm in Pennsylvania.
Okay. That's all right.
But I am Gina B, and I'm from Ghost Detectives. I'm a cast member of the local PA show Ghost Detectives, co-owner at Ghostly Excursions, co-owner at Vortex Ghost Gear. I have the Fox 10 radio show every Thursday night, interviewing a variety of people.
You're showing off now. Yeah. Just bragging now.
So what do you do in your free time?
Yeah.
That's it. Sleep.
All right, Chris.
My name's Chris Therrien, and I'm with New Jersey Paranormal. We run a big New Jersey Pirate Unity Expo in Woodbridge, New Jersey, where we bring in celebrities for charity. We do John. He's just looking down.
John?
I'm
not John, you lucky man.
All right.
Well,
this
way, hold up the cue cards. We also do a live, probably every other night, about the paranormal and stuff like that. We do a big, events all over everywhere, all over New Jersey, sometimes in Pennsylvania, doing charity funds for all of the historical places that we work.
Yeah, we do Pentecost Paragon.
Hey, you already went. You can go.
Yeah, and you all know Pam.
Yeah, I'm Pam Barry. I own the Gettysburg Exchange. I'm the only woman in the paranormal field to own a brick and mortar paranormal store. I'm a Reiki master, spiritual healer, and my husband and I had the idea to do a charity event. And I want you to know that you, as a team, have almost raised $3,000 so far for people. Almost 3,000 in one day. So,
One day, and that's right.
in one day.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow. And I don't play favorites. I don't suck up to people. I just love you. Oh.
You know, I'm going to wear this the whole
Oh,
weekend.
yeah. Tiaras are hard to come by. I don't know why. Not even Halloween yet. But I wanted to thank you for all that you and Steve do. Because if it wasn't for them, there would be no Gettysburg Bash. And we love you.
Thank you. Can you just put this on Steve's head when he comes in?
I couldn't find a crown
That's
for
okay.
him. I could not even a Burger King.
You can put it on.
Oh no, we don't have those anymore.
Well, we stopped it.
Well, I'll do the crown here.
First
and
the
Steve
lemons
can
and the crowns.
I did the lemon, so I said, so if you want to share with Steve, you can do that. That's fine. Okay. So I wanted to talk about our first experiences, that one, paranormal experiences, and what got us into what we do, what we love, and the passion that we had for them. I know this is a ladies' round table. It's nothing male bashing. I mean, I have never in 10 years had any problems with a guy being, oh, what are you doing? That's one of the places that para-unity is very strong. Everybody supports each other. Everybody should support each other.
Right.
It shouldn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It's what's in your heart. It's when you want to help people at a residential home that have issues, people at a location. It's all about your passion. You know, and to me, that's the strongest thing and the best thing. And Spirits of New England is going on 11 years now. God knows you trying to get rid of Jack, but I just can't. You know?
He's like a bad attachment.
I know, very bad attachment.
Big cord cutting.
It's funny, people ask how Jack and I met. And we were both on TAPS. Jason and Grant used to have Beyond Reality Forum. And, you know, I'd be on the forum all the time. And nobody welcomed anybody that was just in there for the first time. And I was like, say hi, you know? It's not easy to put yourself out there and get on a forum with people you don't know. And so, you know, I just made myself the official welcoming committee to say, hey, I'm glad you're here. You know, if you can talk about your experiences, you can talk about anything you want to on here. And Jack got on, and he had just lost his mom, and he was a hurting pup. And I just fell in love with him. I just loved him. And I was like, this is such an open, fantastic guy. And we're going up to Mount Washington to have an event with Jason and Grant and all the guys from Ghost Hunters. And I'm so excited because we're going to be going to Mount Washington. We're doing all this stuff. So we're driving up to New Hampshire, and I'm just like so pumped to meet Jason again, meet Grant, and how they embraced us. And it was going to be my first experience meeting Jack. So we're going up. There's four or five of us in the car, and we're having a grand time driving up there. And a bird flies in the car window and explodes all over me. I am covered with feathers, covered with blood.
Oh my God.
There's a beak.
Oh.
There's a beak. And I'm like, the car is covered with blood, the window's covered with blood. And I'm like, there's nowhere to go. There's no gas stations. What am I going to do? So we pull up, and I was like, well, maybe you can just kind of run up the stairs and go with the lady. She'll get out of the car. Feathers everywhere. And Jason's standing there with Jack, and he goes, that would be your Ellen. Couldn't been more impressive. I know. So that was it for Jack and I. He had to sit down on the steps. But what started me on the paranormal is, like, when I grew up, loved horror movies. Oh my God, any type of horror movie. And I just loved that. And then my brother was killed in Vietnam. And all these things happened. I was 17 years old when this happened. All these things took place. I was 17, I didn't know what to do. I had all these questions. Why is this happening? Why did that happen? Why did that fall off the wall today? What's going on? And it was like my brother was trying to prepare us that he was gone. I had no explanation. I could keep you here for hours to tell you all the things that happened with his death. And I had no one to talk to. Back then, something like that happened. It was war, shouldn't have been there, whatever. I had no one to talk to. No grief counselors, nothing. I started looking into paranormal. Then Ghost Hunters came on. And I was like, oh my God, they get it. They understand. Bless you. There's a crown. Yeah. Ghost Hunters changed my life, saved my life. And I was able to actually sit down with Jason Haas and tell him all the things that happened when my brother died. And 50 years later, I still can't explain it. I just feel like he was going out of his way to prepare my family, that he was gone. And the things that happened were things that shouldn't have happened. You know, on a rainy day with the door closed and my bedroom was his old bedroom. I come home and there's stuff all over. Everything was like off the wall, off the bureaus. And I said, were the cats in here? Did you have the door open? And they're like, no. And it was all stuff that was associated with him. And I think just let me know some other way. And that started me on my journey to try to understand what happens when somebody dies, and it was a violent death. So he didn't know. You know? It's $20. You know, it was.
Who's talking?
You can't prepare yourself for something like that. And it made me so determined to help people that have a violent death or an unexplained death or car accident, that have things happening in their home and they have no one to talk to. And I said, you know what? I had nobody to talk to, but I'm going to be around for people to talk to because I get it. I understand. And that's when we started our team, and I wanted Jack on there, and we've been together 11 years, and we're one of the few groups that have been together that long that we do a ton of residential investigations. A lot of people don't want to get involved with that. They don't want to get involved with the family. They don't want to hear the problem. They want to hit and run. Oh, we investigated there and move on. I still check up on people from years ago to make sure that they're doing okay and that they always can talk to me. They always have somebody to reach out to, you know, and I'm not going to say, oh, you're crazy. Yeah, no. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. You know, that's my calling. I want to help people. I believe things happen. I believe that 9 out of 10 people are going to tell you that you're nuts. And that one person is going to say, let's sit down and talk about what happened to you. You know, let's see if we can find an explanation and get you to a point that you can accept what's going on and understand what's going on. Can't explain it all, but you get somebody to talk to. So that's why I do what I do. Next.
Can I just ask you one question?
Sure.
Are you saying that the unexplained things that happened in your home happened prior to you finding out that your brother had passed? But you were
After
saying
that day, they weren't.
Yeah, because you were just saying that he was preparing you, so I didn't know.
We didn't find out that he was dead till the next day. So all this stuff happened that day. We knew before the army came to the house.
Right.
By the time they came to the house, we were like, yeah, come on, sit down and have a cup of coffee. Because we were just walking around the house going, my God, how did this happen? Yeah, and he still is. And I had the hardest time. Dealing with that. I know he has protected me. He saved me from getting killed in a car accident on the Southeast Expressway. And when the state trooper got me off the highway, great big black guy, big guy, and he said, I have to talk to you. He said, please come sit in the cruiser. And I'm like, okay. Hey, like I'm not nervous enough. Now you're mad at me for something, what? And he just looked at me and he said, honey, you've got a guardian angel watching over you. He said, it is, I don't know if it rained here like it rained when I was coming down from Boston yesterday. He said, I don't know how I even saw your car. He said, that's how bad the rain was. My car was dead on the South Expressway with cars going by me, and I couldn't pull over, and I'm screaming because my daughter's in the back seat. And he said, and he was shaking like a leaf. He said, something made me pull over. That's when I saw your car, and that's when I got you off the highway. He says, you've got somebody watching over you. He said, do you have a family member that died? And I told him about my brother, and he was like, God bless him. He says, your brother, he's watching you. He's watching over you.
Absolutely. Totally.
So, everything that happened in our house happened that day because we weren't told officially till the next day. And by then we were just like, what else are you gonna do? You got our attention, okay? We know you're gone. You're gonna be buried on my 18th birthday. You always got the last word. Oh my God! But it was just like, how do you explain that? How do you talk to somebody about that without them knowing? Yeah. That state trooper, we sat there and we hugged each other for about 10 minutes because he was like, I have never been guided off the highway to, oh, go ahead.
Jack took it.
Oh, no. Heckler, security. Yeah. How do you explain that?
Is there other female investigators?
Jack? Jerk? What? Yes. You're too late. I already told him about the feathers and the...
Oh, yeah.
Is that a beak? Yeah. Your turn.
My turn. And I didn't know I was gonna have to answer this question. I haven't actually told too many people. But when I was little, and I'm talking like 3-4 years old, there was something that resided in our house, and I would make mention of it. My mom thought I was a child with an overactive imagination. And so one day she was doing dishes and we had this big window and looked down on the sun. Doors locked. We went to a laundry room.
Okay, thank you.
And from the laundry room downstairs to the basement, there was another door that had a very high wall. And all of a sudden, looks out. She doesn't see me, but she hears me crying. And leaves her dishes, goes around the corners of the laundry room, doesn't see me until she looks and the basement door's open, and I'm sitting in the middle of the stairs, halfway down. And she says, what are you doing? How did you get in here? I said, the man took my ball. He's telling me to come get it back. And I don't like it. And that's how it sort of started. My mom thought maybe somebody got in the downstairs basement door. So she grabs me immediately, runs in, locks the door, the entry out to the sun porch, calls up my uncle, who was just down the street. Somebody's in the basement. There's a man in the basement. You need to come check out the house. You need to come get him out of here. But when my uncle gets there, there's nobody in the basement. And there was a few more incidents that kind of escalated from there. I think my mom thought that she gave birth to Rosemary's Baby. And that's still up for debate, Ellen.
Yeah,
still.
okay, all right.
It wasn't until a family friend who was a psychic medium came in and looked at her, like just walked in the house, looked at me, looked at her, looked at the surroundings and said, Gloria, something is attached to your daughter. Something is really going on here. And my mom just cried because she finally had an answer. So I think for a few years I put that away. I mean, you continue to grow up a little bit. But as I got older, it was wanting to find more answers to what happened, to connect with other people that had experiences like mine. And I have probably been at this on and off since I was about 12. I mean, I was the kid that would walk through the graveyard looking for answers on the way home from school. I've met a lot of wonderful people along the way. I hope I've helped a lot of wonderful people along the way. And the journey continues. Now you
Just say how you did. Started psych paranormal.
well, you know, the journey continues. I started psych paranormal. I'm a case manager for NAPS. I do a little bit more. But yeah, the beginning was the
She's left.
very serious.
Totally professional.
Absolutely, I was gonna say for
Hi, I'm Carly. I am pretty young. 24 years old. My experiences started pretty much my whole entire life. Since I can even remember last when I was a little kid. I think my first experience would have to be in kindergarten when I heard a kid crying in the bathroom because we had bathrooms in the classroom. And I was wondering why nobody else could hear the kid crying in the bathroom. And I was like, oh, you know, it must be normal, you know, teacher's not reacting. Yeah, and then one day, the kid comes out of the bathroom and announced for the game, and he's like crying. No one, I asked for years later on, like, who was that kid in our class that like lost his tooth? He was some weird. That was my very first experience that I can remember. But I pretty much grew up my whole entire life in a family that had no abilities. I was the only one in the house with abilities because I was adopted. So you could say I was the black sheep of the family. And I actually was almost admitted to a psych ward.
Your parents did?
Yeah,
that's great.
So I had
Central Heat,
right? I keep telling my therapist to send the bill to my parents because you know you really can't buy it, but
yeah.
it's really like it. But anyway, so it wasn't until I was 13 years old. We had a really bad haunting in my house that my parents were like, "Hey, we need to admit her that she's something really fucking with her." I ended up having a friend help me through it and train me for 8 years. It was a 10-year haunting. He trained me for 8 years how to deal with it. How to hone in my abilities and how to protect myself and learn how to protect others.
You did that on TV.
Yeah, yep, I did tell my story about that on Paranormal Survivor. And hey, it's season 5, episode 5, Dark Dreams. I will let you know.
Not that you forgot.
Yeah, I will let you know. It's pretty funny to watch that episode because it may look like I was emotionally traumatized, but it wasn't from what you'd think was the experience. It was actually from the peppermint schnapps that night prior that I accidentally had a little bit too much of. And I was very much regretting that big and muffin I had that morning. But anyway, besides, if you hear Christmas in a cup, that's why. So, so I met Jack at Ocean State Paracon in Ellen. A few years ago, and they adopted me. That's my mom. This is my family, my paranormal family. Love you guys. And funny thing is, I just happened to go to Ocean State Paracon on a whim with a friend of mine who was selling her metaphysical stuff. And I was just helping out, you know, like I had nowhere to go live with me, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And she was introducing me to a friend named Jack. I was like, oh, cool. Jack seems kind of cool. And he comes over. He's like, oh, hi, I'm Jack. And we got along pretty well. And he's like, yeah, you guys should come over to dinner. And we went out to the chicken restaurant and we had a blast. Oh my God, we were laughing so hard. Meanwhile, I had no idea who the hell he was. Yeah, I just thought he was some guy named Jack, you know. And so the next day, he's like, yeah, I'm doing a lecture. You should come over and hang out. And I was like, okay. So normally I'm a back pew type of person, but since I was pretty comfortable with Jack, I sat right in the front row. First mistake. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh cool, he's talking about, you know, like the differences between how TV portrays you versus reality during investigations. And he comes up to a Haunting Case Files episode. I still, up to that point, had no idea who the hell he was, okay? And I even accidentally friend requested him on Facebook. The reason I didn't look was because I hit the button and I was like, oh shit. And then, I should have looked, but anyway. I'm sitting there going, oh, because I could recognize the episode.
That
jackhammer. I had watched Haunted Case Files with my dad when I was younger, and that was, we had a thing whenever my dad and I would get in arguments, was we'd watch one episode of Haunted Case Files, which was one of my favorite shows, and an episode of NCIS, which was his favorite show. And Jack was our favorite investigator on that show. So when my dad passed, 5 years prior to that, I was like, oh shit. Alright, fine. So we hit it off, we've been friends, I went on an investigation with him at Hinsdale House in Ellen, and we hit it off, you guys were awesome. Yep. Then we went to Oliver House, and that was when Ellen was in my ear and invited me on her team. Well, I pissed him.
Okay, pissed me.
I pissed him. Mainly that night, but yep, and it's been downhill from there ever since. I like to help people with investigations, just because I was one of those people that didn't have anybody growing up with all these experiences. People called me crazy. I thought I was legitimately crazy. And people like Jack and Ellen, you guys helped answer all the other questions that my friend wasn't able to answer. And I love helping. I love helping the younger generation.
You are the younger generation.
Yeah. Our younger generation with their growing abilities. It's very tough, being a teenager with all the pressures of society and growing up and not knowing what you want to do. On top of that, you're dealing with everybody else's energy, and you don't know what to do. So it can cause a lot of issues. Yeah, that's where I come from.
I'm Gina B, the place to be, Pete Fox, Paranormal Princess. that's my name on my radio show. It's the Fox thing. But no, my first experience, I could sit here and talk to you guys until next week. Just on the stories and the experiences I've had in the paranormal. But the first one, and that's the question, was when I was little. I think I was either 5 or 6. My grandfather passed away. Now, I am a finished walker. I am finished in Italian. My Finnish side, very small little family. The Italian side, humongous. Right? My mom's one of 12. We used to go to my grandmother's house every Sunday for pasta, for whatever, would make cookies for everybody's weddings. All the Italian things, typical Italian family, that was it. Right? Very close. And my grandfather, who was Nick Steamboat Mattoni, right? He had a stutter when he talked. So like, and he had that heavy accent, the Italian accent, because they came from Italy. So he was passing away. When we were little, we had to stop going over there because he was kind of like hospice in this house, right? So we weren't, all the cousins and such weren't allowed over. Now, I get up one morning, and he appeared at the foot of my bed, and he's talking to me, and he's telling me, they grab on my feet, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why are you here? And I go and I tell my mother that, and I said, Grandpa was in my room, and he was at my bed, and he's telling me that they grabbed him his feet. She broke down. She said that the night before, they were over there, and my grandfather passed away in his bed, and he was telling them that he thought there were gremlins at the bottom of his bed grabbing his feet, trying to pull his covers. So he was saying, they were grabbing my feet, and then he passed. So that I knew, I didn't know then, but I mean, that was just odd. No one would talk about that in family, Again, yes, I'm black sheep of the family, and my 3 brothers and sisters, and then 5 years later, it was me. Right? But I've always been drawn to the paranormal. Everything. since I was little, I just liked paranormal shows. I liked, ghost stories. I liked all those things. Everything that was, in that realm, I watched it. I was immersed in it, and I loved it. But then about 8 months later, my grandmother dies. Now I've talked to my other cousins too, and there's only one out of the so many that we get to a hall every year to get the family together at Christmas time. That's how many cousins I have. It is huge, right? Out of all of them, my one cousin, Lynn, saw my grandmother when she died. Same thing, right? Now my grandmother appears at the foot of my bed again. I don't know what it is with the foot of the bed thing. I seriously don't know. She was trying to talk. I could see her perfectly, but when I see her mouth moving, no words. I don't know what she was saying. So those were, first two full body, complete apparitions that I've seen. That's my family. That's, they're coming to see me. So there's a reason. I think as I got older and I got kind of, pushed into different things, I've always been prone to having my own business. All right, I'm a go-getter. My dad always said, if someone else can do it, so can you. That's me. Right? So if I'm going to start a business, I'll start. If I think I can do this, I'm going to do it. If I don't, what's going to happen? I'm going to fail. Right? So you start on and so that's what I do. So that's kind of where I was geared to. But I ended up going into the decorating business and such, and I'm an artist, and I would paint murals, and I would paint murals in hospitals at nighttime when they're closed and no one's there, and I'm dragging stuff through, and I'm getting visited, and so it was crazy. It's always been crazy. And I just kind of got away from it when I got into the decorating business, and I'm tearing apart buildings, and, the paranormal community accepts you. The design community does not when you start talking about those things. It's just like, upon, no, you don't write about that. And I never really fit in with them anyway because they want to charge $1 million and I'll give you $1 million look for like, 1,000. So I didn't really fit in. I'm an asshole. That's it. And but I kind of got away from it. But then doing that business, and then I said, you know what? No, I'm going to get back into this. I ended up, my husband died. And he was so a lot of people were like this guy. He couldn't go to the store alone. He needed people with him. He had an entourage with him all the time. Really, seriously. Really couldn't go anywhere by himself. He passed away, and I was on a team at the time, and I'm taking thermal images where he passed away, and I got his face, because he actually passed away face down, and I picked him up, and all the fluid kind of gets in his face. He was here, on the couch, he was dead, there's pillows over here. His face was on those pillows I got on the thermal camera. It's in a book, it's in one of Joni Mayhan's books, Signs of Spirit, and 2 pictures I took, and it was his face perfectly on those pillows. Then I ended up going to a psychic. The psychic said, oh my God, he goes, you got so many people with you. And I was going with my friends too. And here's the thing, I told you I'm in the decorating business, okay? The house I bought with him, he was a builder. So like I designed, he'd build it, I'd finish it, done. And a cleaning company I had, and cleaned it up. So built this one big 20 by 20 edition stuff. He says, leave this room alone, please just leave this room alone. Just leave the beige, the border. Right? So after he passed away, I went in there, and I'm an artist. I full paint the whole thing. I look like this light. Full paint the whole thing, ceiling, everything. Right? Now I go to the psychic. He's going, wow, with all these people and these bright lights and everything else with you. And he said, there's a tall blonde guy. And I was like, yeah, there's my brother, right? And he said, he's got something real serious to tell you. And I'm like, okay. I'm like thinking, what did I do? Right? He says, you girlied up my living room. Bam! I was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. That was Gary McKinstry from the Douglas. I don't know if you know Gary McKinstry. He's kind of the Ocean State, that American. Was it Ocean State?
Ocean State.
Oh, Ocean State. Okay. It's kind of by there.
Yeah.
But he's an unbelievable psychic. But when he said that, I just stopped.
But you know, there's just so many that, I think this, like I said, I could talk till next week, I know our time is running down, but so many experiences I absolutely 100% know that this realm is real. They do communicate with you. If you look for the signs, you'll get them. I just lost my dog 3 weeks ago. She just left me a piece of food right on my bed. You know, it's either I got mice or she left me food, you know, but I'm really kind of anal. I have a cleaning company, I clean, you know, it's like cleaning all the time. Vacuum, get the bean. But, yep, stepped on a piece of food. So, you know, look for those signs of spirit. It could be anything and from anyone.
So this is also what's so great about paranormal people that are compassionate. Do you know how many people are sitting in here going, you know, because they can relate to what you're saying and how hard it is to say it. Thank you.
Mine's a little bit different. Everybody, I'm an odd duck. I've always been, always will be.
I can vouch for that.
If
Why we love you.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you ask me what my first experience is, I can't tell you. All I can tell you is that I didn't have the spirit showing up at the end of the bed. I didn't have a spirit speaking to me or grabbing my leg. I had something much darker. It was horrifying for me from way back. My mother would tell me even as a baby, she hated to come into my room at night because it just always felt horrible. She was afraid to come into her own kid's room at night, terrified. And she would hope that I would just work out whatever was going on because she was too afraid. That's scary. That's scary when your mother tells you that when you're older. But I grew up with 3 sisters, family of 6, and I was always isolated. I always got a room to myself. And because every time they tried to switch around and put a sister with me, doors would go flying open. I'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming, something would be choking me. They would see me like up on the bed and like going like this. They couldn't understand. I'd be screaming. They'd see red eyes shoot out of the closet in the middle of the night. I'd have stalkers out of the blue, break into my car, break into my home. I was abducted for 3 weeks, tortured, put through hell. I could go on and on, like Gina said, but my experiences were never that communicating or misunderstanding. I knew what my problem was something such greater and beyond anything I could comprehend that I became suicidal. And by the time I was 17, I went to both of my parents and I said, you have to have me committed. I'm mentally ill. There's no other explanation to what's going on here. I've got 3 wonderful sisters who are not experiencing any of this. And thank God I had supportive parents. And they said, no, this is real. This is really happening. And that's when they started having discussions about the different things they experienced being around me and why my sisters were afraid and why they were afraid. They just didn't know how to deal with it. Because like you said, there wasn't discussions about this. There was no one you could turn to. There was nothing. So my father, being a Roman Catholic, went to the church, asked the church what could they do for me. So they said, well, bring her in and we'll have a discussion with her. So here I am sitting in the room alone with the priest, and the priest says, well, it's like this. Whatever's happening to you is because you're not a very good person and you're bringing it on, so you need to go and you need to go fix yourself. I come out and I tell this to my parents. My parents were very upset. We walked away from the Catholic Church. That was the end for my parents, and I thank to God to this day that they did that. Then my father decided, you know what, let's try psychic medium. Because at least psychic mediums you could talk to privately. Unfortunately for me, when they sat me down with a psychic medium, she brought me into her house. She laid out these cards, flipped the card, stood up, get out of my house, and don't you ever come back. Because your problems are way beyond anything I can deal with. That messed me up for years. And strangely enough, by the time I hit, what was the card? I have no idea. No clue. No clue. So
Those are the people that give the feel bad.
it is, and you know how I feel about that.
Oh my God.
That's a get the hell out of my house card.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
But again, to a 17-year-old who's already struggling,
Right.
different than trying to find answers. There were no answers. There was no one to talk to. There was no one that you could communicate that to. And again, thank God I had 2 parents that at least cared. and tried. So then it just got to, we kept this quiet, and I just dealt with it. By the time I was 17 and a half, I moved into my own place just to remove my family from what I was dealing with. I was living on my own in my own apartment, got a roommate, and stuff continued there, and I dealt with it for years. And then finally I had a knock on the door. A priest from a church I don't know, I've never met this guy. He said, I've been sent to you. This is not your fault. Whatever's going on, you have what we call an open soul. And he said, and you've got to decide what your stance is in life. What do you believe in? You haven't made that up yet, your mind up yet. And he said, you're gonna have to work at this. I'm not here to tell you what you should believe in. I'm just sent here to tell you this is what you need to do to help yourself. And through the years, I started building myself up, getting stronger, putting in my mind, deciding what I believed in and what I don't believe in. And things got better. And people come over to my house sometimes. I've had nieces come over, spend the night, come up and visit. I've had my kids growing up. They've had experiences, they've had things, but nothing like what it was like when I was a kid. And then John comes along. And I wanted nothing to do with the paranormal. I'm not like everybody else. I don't want answers. That door's closed for me. What I went through, I don't ever want to experience ever again as long as I live. And John comes in and he's doing paranormal. He's like, come on, come out. No. John doesn't believe in demons. John believes that people are inherently evil, so if you die, you're evil. John doesn't believe in angels and he doesn't believe in demons like I do. But John hasn't experienced what I've experienced. So for me, I know what I was dealing with. So, and I hope he never does. I like that he doesn't know that realm. But he said, why don't you join the team and you come out doing, nope. And he had no idea what I went through. Nope, I have no, oh come on, you have a good time. Nope. So how he tricked me into it was he asked me to come and
this John guy sounds like a horrible person.
He said, I need footage from this location. Could you please come in and film? So I'm sitting in the dark, filming him, and a thing comes flying by my head, and he screams over and goes, what are you doing over there? What in God's name are you doing over there? I'm froze. Something just flew by my head in the dark. I have no, and this guy is like going, and I'm like, turn on the light. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna turn on the light. What's your problem? I go, something just went flying by my head. He goes, no. And then he got up and he looked, and there was a rock. I had come across and hit the wall. He might have.
He did throw nice.
But then he started talking and goes, no, you really should join the team and stuff because the perspective of where you come from and the compassion that you have. And I'm very open to talking to people about their experiences, no matter what they are, and sharing what my experience is. Now, do I open myself up? Deb knows this. No, I don't. Do I, Deb? I'm more than willing to help you if you want to open up and do your stuff. I do the natural stuff, but that's pretty much it. I don't open myself up. But I'm more than happy to help someone who wants to, in a good setting, in a good way, open up to having an experience with spirit.
But do you feel
John, not to get see
that you were in
that's
control,
that face on the pillow.
that you can just say,
It took me a long time and a lot of strength to build it up because there weren't people out there to teach you, talk to you, and guide you at all like it is today. Today it's a completely different world.
Oh, yeah. Completely. Years ago, yeah. So you got it made, really, because you got into the field being so young, you had that help. We were struggling. That was all poo-poo. No. Or they were going to lock you up.
Well, I actually went to my parents to see if they want to lock me up. I'm crazy. There's no other explanation. I'm batshit crazy. I have to be.
Who sent that priest to you?
Who
sent that second priest to you? Where'd he come from?
No clue.
Oh, really?
No clue. Till this day, I still don't know who he is. Not at all, but he set me on a path that healed me. And for that, I'm grateful. Just knocked on my door one day when I wasn't working in the middle of the night and I was sent here to, I'm like, what? No, I don't.
But see, now that's the power of the mind too, because everything in the paranormal, even to protect yourself or anything like that, your intent is the strongest thing. You are your best paranormal.
You are the best.
Right? Yeah. So you want to protect yourself, you have to believe it. So what you believe and what your intent and what your strengths are, you bring that into yourself until you go to an investigation.
one of the things I wanted to quickly mention is, when I talk to people and I tell them that I'm a paranormal investigator and you get the, really?
why are you giving me the attitude? What's that for? Oh, come on, you people get paid, you do this, you do that. And I said, I've been doing this for 11 years. And I said, somebody leaves me a bunch of subs and a bag of potato chips, I'm good. I've had somebody leave me $100, wouldn't take it. If you're doing it for money, shame on you. Shame on you. I'm not gonna walk into somebody's house and say, okay, so if I do this, you owe me this, I'll make it up. And I'm like, well, why did you do that? Why would you do it if you're not getting paid? And I said, I would rather get a hug from a homeowner that is in control of their house, that has confidence, again, and is not afraid to walk into their own house. I'll take that over a check any day.
I see it as being like a counselor. So when I go into residential, I'm like, I have your paperwork first.
Yeah.
Because you do have to rule out if the person has issues, dementia, schizophrenic, any of those things. You do have to rule those out. You do have to do research and study, and it's a case study. It really is. So then you go and you talk to the client. You're going to talk to the spirit. So that's what you do. You talk to the client first, talk to the spirit.
The woman that left the $100 for us had gotten ripped off by a paranormal team who came in and wiped out everything she had on her walls, which was all stuff from Italy, passed down from her family. Oh, no, this is possessed, you gotta get this out of here, oh, this is all evil. Wiped out this poor, she was this tall.
Oh my God.
Little Italian woman, wiped out her house. Guarantee this stuff was on eBay that night. Had a priest come to the house. Oh, I'll bless your house. $300. We walked in there. She had a spread that was like, oh dear God, give me this food. And, she was so grateful that we came down and that, Jack and I had established a contact with her before we walked in the house. The biggest compliment you can get as a paranormal investigator, to me, is for somebody to look on your website and say, I like these people. I trust these people. They can come in my house. I feel good about these people. That's the biggest compliment you can get. And I wrote her a note and I said, thank you for the $100. I can't take it. You've already been taken advantage of. Already been used and betrayed. And, Jack, stinker, didn't even see him. We work full-time jobs. We pay for our own equipment, we pay for our expenses, we pay for our hotels. $100 would come in handy going from Boston to Connecticut. I would not have taken that money from her for anything. And I said, thank you. I appreciate it so much, but I said, you've been through enough. Never turned out.
I think we might have a paranormal picture, but it won't come through, so we'll have to have you share.
All right.
Okay, we'll have to have you share it here. Okay. So, my name's Pam Barry. My grandmother was in the paint plant, and so I was always in the metaphysical field realm. On weekends, we would either have seances or play with our Ouija boards. I saw my first paranormal experience was actually on the Constellation in Baltimore in Inner Harbor. I saw a man, he told me that I could get in his bunk. So I climbed up in the bunk, and I was on my sister's it was on a field trip. And I went to Catholic school. There were nuns on the ship. And my mother said, "Get to you're embarrassing me." And the man came up, and I got down. The man came back. He said, "I told you you could sit in my bunk." So I got back up on the bunk again. I can still see him. I can still in my head feel his wool blanket. So I do need to get back on the Constellation and do an investigation. I can still smell the boat because it was such a profound experience. And there was a painter, and I can still smell the turpentine. So it pulls back all that. And people forget that olfactory, smells are very important. So when we go to, let's say, Jenny Wade House or the orphanage, there's not every time, but sometimes we'll serve the food that they might have eaten or a drink that they might have drank. And we'll talk about the history of the place. Like when we're in the orphanage, we put our stuff down on the table and we pretend like we're orphans without disrespecting. We're orphans. Stop looking at me. I miss my mother. Here comes Miss Rosa. Dave was on our last investigation there. We were sitting at the dining room tables where the orphans ate when they were allowed to. There were 2 tables, and the evidence we got was just outstanding. So that's kind of what we're about. We're in Gettysburg. We're on Baltimore Street. We sell paranormal equipment. I have a Reiki room, and we take people on public investigations. And then we do this once a year. And the historic 1912 Hoover House. It's a haunted bed and breakfast. It's amazing. It was a nursing home for a little bit. I have some people who have stayed with us. So people investigate and stay with us. So you're not just rushed through in an investigation, you actually get to sleep. And then you wake up and I feed you.
Nice.
She's so good. It's so good.
Okay, let's see the picture. Let's see
Oh,
the
the table
picture,
took
Natalie.
there too.
Come show us the picture that you took.
I didn't, because I was an awful, I'm gonna get the show out, but very.
I have so many pictures on this phone that will blow your mind. I got 15 applications watching.
Did you just take this picture just now?
That's a picture I took of you with a crown.
Yep, with nothing?
I can't see it.
Yes, nothing.
Can you bring it up?
She's got swag.
Sure.
Come bring it.
Show me.
But it's my Wi-Fi.
Oh.
Like, that's why.
But yeah, the table tipping at the Hoover House is absolutely amazing.
We tried table tipping with a skeptic at the table, and it does not go well.
Yeah.
We had a lot of activity.
Yes, Kenny. Yes, Kenny. It was Kenny.
Well, he did it at the Hoover.
That's the
only one.
Yep. Yep.
I didn't know it till we went there.
Ah.
What?
The shirt that I just took from her tiara.
There's a lot of things that happen with photography. There really is. All right, pareidolia. Pareidolia is huge in this field, okay? Really, really, really bad. All right, people will say, oh, orbs. Ugh. All right. There are some orbs, yes, Karen, but you know, there's things that go on if they can take the corner or if they can talk about something you ask me to, okay. Right? But other than that, it's dust, it's moisture, it's whatever, right? But pareidolia on pictures, the way the light shines through, it bounces all around the room. It could look like grandma's face up there because it's a reflection, just a dirty piece of glass and bouncing off something, and that looks like grandma's face.
I've got some really cool pictures at the David Stewart Farm. Not David Stewart, I'm sorry. Daniel Lady Farm, which was a field hospital. And we were taking pictures, we got back to the store, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Amanda Kepi. Did you ever see that?
No.
Then there's one, there's a man sitting, and it looks like somebody's laying there. It looks like people. So we went back, retook pictures, it's dirt, mold, and kind of grunge. But my eyes, and so I do have it in the store so people can see. Okay, pareidolia.
Yes.
Our brain wants to make sense
The
of
falciform
stuff.
part of the brain
Yeah.
is a thing, it's a self-protection thing. You're gonna
Like
look
you
at
said,
something.
even smudging on the window, people on hand start blowing up.
yeah,
There's an
that's
eye,
all,
there's a nose,
It's a cool
there's
picture.
Yeah, because it's your map, your mind is
Yeah.
a map, and it maps something familiar, so you're not afraid. And that's what it does, and everybody has this, right? So pareidolia is huge. You can see, you know, in the faces in the clouds, or, you know, your dog, or your whatever, and just, you know, things that you really love, you know, and it's just, it feels safe. So, you know.
Well, thank you guys. The guys are out there waiting.
Yeah, I told you.
On to the men.